Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Walking Dead Junkies, a podcast where we break down our favorite characters from our favorite show, The Walking Dead. Today, we're going to break down, discuss all the stuff about this lady right here behind me, Miss Beth Greene, played by Emily Kinney from seasons 2 to seasons 5 of the show. So we're going to break down everything Beth today, and then as I think I've talked about before, about a year and a half ago, I had a big knee injury, couldn't walk for a while. So at one point, I was rewatching the whole show. Really, just I don't like the first half of season 5, especially the stuff at the hospital and just how a lot of things played out. I may or may not have rewrote an alternate storyline when I couldn't walk and was just stuck in bed for months at a time. So we're going to talk about that and see what Chelsey thinks of my alternate storyline. So Chelsey, what is up? How are you doing? I feel like I haven't talked to you in years and years and years.
Yeah, well, just planning birthday parties and living life before I start my master's degree. And
There you go. Hell yeah. Also, I finally got my degree in the mail. Did you get yours?
yes, I did.
Hell yeah.
About 2 days behind yours.
Yeah, our Walking Dead viewers might not know. Chelsey and I started all of this with a music podcast, and we were both music majors together at Full Sail University. That's how we got to know each other. We both graduated at the beginning of March, so that's what that was all about.
For sure.
But also, if you can't tell, I have a little bit of a cold. My voice isn't completely here. I'm going to do my best. I have some throat healing juice stuff that I found at the store. We should be good. But anyway, Beth Greene is my all-time favorite TV character across Rick, if you don't count Rick Grimes. Beth Greene is my all-time favorite secondary character, I guess you would say. I adore her. I see myself in her a lot, as we've talked about on this podcast before. I am very, very excited to get into her story. So we meet Beth, season 2, I believe. Well, there was 6 episodes in season 1. She comes in season 2, episode 2, Bloodletting, I believe. Is that the name of the episode? That sounds right.
It sounds, yeah.
Probably should have wrote that down. Anyway, we meet her, but we don't really meet Beth. She's there, she's in the episode, but she's such a background character at this point that the first time viewing, you might not even notice there's another person there.
Right.
Beth finally starts becoming more of a prominent character around the mid-season finale after Sophia comes out of the barn and Rick shoots her. One of the other walkers in the barn was Beth's mom, Herschel's wife, Maggie's stepmom. I believe her name was Annette. So Beth sees her mom dead as a walker and runs up to her, and she's not dead yet. So the walker starts attacking Beth, and this is the first time Beth has any kind of prominence in the story at all. She starts attacking Beth, and I believe it's Andrea who comes up with this like a whatever you call that thing, a sickle, a scythe. I think it was like a scythe. I don't
I
know.
have no idea. Look,
But
I'm trying to think. I thought they were all just had guns.
yeah, I think Andrea picked up some sort of farm equipment and killed it. Or was it T-Dog? It was somebody. I don't know. But anyway, they rescue Beth. And then after this, Herschel kind of goes off. He's really depressed about everything that just happened because Herschel, Maggie, Beth, and the rest of them at the farm had kind of just not fully processed and accepted what was happening in the world. And they had kind of lived in their own little bubble. And so Herschel just kind of hit like a ton of bricks and realizes that he's been wrong this whole time. And he just kind of goes off to the bar and drinks. So Herschel's MIA. And this whole time, Beth kind of falls into like a catatonic state and becomes very suicidal. I'm surprised how well I remember this storyline from season 2. So she like tries to commit suicide. She tries to convince Maggie to kill herself with her, like at night in her bed. Maggie obviously is not for it, doesn't accept it. Maggie and Beth have a big fight, like sisters would. It's very realistic. And I see a lot of people give Beth a lot of hate for this storyline, and it's so realistic it's such a
Because they have to understand she was like what, 16 or 17 at that point in time. She
yeah,
was
or
a young
yeah, 15,
kid,
16, 17, something like that.
young kid. And that's a hard reality to process.
Yeah, like you just saw a bunch. Not only has your whole world been uprooted, you're not. I'm assuming she was a high school student. She's not in high school anymore. Jimmy, who was her boyfriend, is now living with them. They're basically like married now,
Married. I think
and
they actually are married.
more or less, I don't know.
They call him her husband.
Yeah, and then yeah, then you see your mom and brother get shot in the face as walkers, and then you're attacked. It's just a lot for a young girl, I think, especially to handle. And so, yeah, it's very realistic, and I think it was a great start to her characters to see where she could go from, like to build. But anyway, so Beth tries to keep a knife when Lori brings her food, and Lori realizes it and takes the knife from her. But then Andrea, who had also gone through this whole kind of suicidal stage season 1, and she was still kind of in it at this point in season 2, but starting to come out of it.
Yeah.
Opens the bathroom door and leaves, and she was supposed to be watching her. And this is when Beth goes in the bathroom, locks herself in, breaks the mirror, and slits her wrist. Very traumatic scene when you see Maggie go in there and trying to help her. But then Maggie kicks Andrea out of the house, says she's not welcome there anymore, which is very understandable. And that is basically.
I
Oh yeah,
I
you
always
love
kind of
Andrea.
agreed with Andrea on that. I always had her back, but I guess from a family, I'm an only child, so I have I can't relate as far as like
Right.
sibling view. But I do get where Andrea is coming from, that Beth had to make her own decision to live.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. Beth was going to figure it out one way or another. Beth is
yeah,
a very smart character. She was going to
Herschel had
figure it
all
out.
those drugs around. She could have easily just
Exactly. And that's not something that could have been stitched up like her wrist could.
right.
That's would have killed her immediately. But so that's kind of the bulk of Beth's story from season 2. She's still more of a background character. Doesn't have a lot of prominence yet. But in the finale, she's trying to leave the farm. She's in the house with Carol and Lori and Patricia and those Herschel's there. Those characters are running out of the house. She's arm in arm with Patricia, and Patricia gets devoured while Beth is holding on to her.
Yeah.
Lori
She was
has,
supposed to get devoured too.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that's why there wasn't such a big focus on her character.
yeah. Oh yeah. My assumption is they didn't really plan on keeping Beth around at all, and then either they just couldn't decide on the best way to kill her, or Emily Kinney was obviously awesome, so they were like, maybe we can do something with this.
I think it was a little bit Emily Kinney and a little bit maybe they just didn't know what to do really.
Because even though Beth wasn't a huge focus, Herschel and Maggie were, and
Yeah.
Beth's death would be huge for them. And my guess is they just didn't want to take Herschel or Maggie down that road quite yet. And I'm happy they never made Herschel. We'll get
For sure.
we'll
Yeah.
get to that point, but I'm happy they never made him have to deal with the death of Maggie or Beth. I'm very happy he died before them.
Yes.
But so going into so in the finale of season 2, she's in the car with Lori and T-Dog when they escape. She's with them when they see Andrea get devoured. She doesn't, obviously, but they think it looks like it.
Yeah, it does look like it.
And
I mean, you can't really fault them.
Yeah. So yeah, I never really faulted them for leaving Andrea behind. It definitely looked like she got devoured.
I did fault them for not letting Daryl go back though. He could have handled himself. He could have got in and out and at least tracked her and seen, you know.
Yeah. Well, and that was still so early in the apocalypse, though. Even Daryl would have been fine. That's a lot of walkers to take on yourself, especially when you're still new to the apocalypse.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get it. And
I've always just had a lot of faith in him.
Yeah.
Because of Chupacabra.
Oh yeah, he would have been totally fine. But so anyway, so yeah, Beth alongside T-Dog and Lori meet up with everyone else in the highway, the entire cast that survived except for Jimmy, Patricia, Shane, and Andrea. Everyone else is there. So she tells them about Jimmy's death and yada yada yada. This isn't a democracy anymore. end of season, boom. So what's your favorite if there is one, because season 2 Beth was such a minor character, what is your favorite season 2 moment for Beth? Do you have one?
I think probably just the Patricia moment and like the shock on her face, really seeing like and realizing, because up until that point, Herschel and his family didn't realize what these things could really do to them.
Yeah.
And the realization, I think that was it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think mine would be her first like big scene when her mom as a walker attacks her. I think that's probably my favorite Beth moment, because then it pushes the rest of her story kind of. Yep, it's like the initial tragedy to push her forward. But yeah, season 2 not huge for Beth, but still a character, still around. Perfect. Okay, season 3. I don't know why I did that. Okay, season 3. Again, Beth is becoming more of a main focus, but she really doesn't have much of a storyline throughout season 3. She's just kind of there in the prison. She's singing. She helps bring a lot of morale up. She sees T-Dog get bit. Like, she's there through all of that. But yeah, there's not really much of a story for Beth. I like the scene when Glenn and Merle are fighting in like the prison, and she takes the gun and shoots it up and stops them from fighting. Other than that, there's really not much focus on her. She's in the show more, but she doesn't really have a storyline, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, she doesn't. She just kind of floats around.
Mm-hmm.
You see her here and you see her there, and you know, she just doesn't.
Yeah, and I wish they would have just like kind of like how they did Maggie, just let her be more of a badass. Like, she doesn't have to be the biggest badass in the world, but like there was when Glenn and Maggie were kidnapped by Merle and taken to Woodbury. Beth is one of the first people to volunteer to go to Woodbury.
Because that's her sister,
Exactly.
and that's how Maggie should have had the energy when she got gone.
Anyway, if you guys don't know, Chelsey is not a Maggie fan. But I wish they would have let Beth go with them, and I just wish they would have given her more to do. It would not have hindered the story at all to let.
It would have completely made every bit of the story better. They would have had another able-bodied fighter. They would have had. She could have done more than just taking care of Judith.
Exactly, and that's basically, if she did have a storyline, that's basically what she did. She would stay behind and do stuff and go. Basically, the whole time they're at the prison, she was basically the mom of Judith, which makes sense. Someone has to, and Rick can't always be there. But I don't know. I wish there could have been more for her. But
I wish we could have seen more of a her and Carl dynamic, them going off to getting some stuff together.
Yeah. So one thing that came out that would have been cool. I would have liked to see more of a Carl Beth friendship that they kind of started, but not really. But that would have been cool. One thing that did come out a few months ago, I don't know if you saw this, the actor that played the prisoner Axel, he kind of revealed what the original scripts were for the first half of season 3. And in the comics, Herschel has 2 twin daughters, Lucy and
it's been a long time since
I don't know, but Herschel has 2 twin daughters, and they get murdered. They get decapitated by one of the prisoners, I believe Thomas. So in the show, they were going to kind of adapt that. It was going to be Beth and Axel. They were going to go out in the woods like on a supply run or something, and Axel was going to murder Beth, and he was supposed to like attack Carol, and Carol was supposed to kind of get the storyline that Andrea got in the comics, where she gets like her face cut up and stuff. So that was supposed to happen, and then the last minute they decide not to do it because they didn't want Herschel to have to go through that. That's kind of how we just talked about, which I'm happy they never did that, but that would have also been kind of fun to see. So I'm kind of torn.
I mean, honestly, it would have been better than what they put on. How they took all those years to finally let her be somewhat of a badass.
Yeah. And at that point, I would have been sad, but she also wasn't my favorite character yet at this point.
Right. We
That
didn't
would-
have a relationship with her.
yeah, so that just would have been a really tragic, sad thing, but it would have been good. But I'm glad they didn't do that in the long run.
For sure. We would have missed out on so many good moments.
Exactly. All right, so yeah, season 3. Not too much to say about Beth. I don't even know if I really have a favorite scene. I think my favorite Beth scene would be when she stopped Glenn and Merle from fighting. Um, but yeah, there's not much. I know when Sasha and Tyrese first get into the prison, Sasha asks Beth uh, how she's feeling because she assumes it's Judith is her baby, and then she's like, "Oh, she's not mine."
Yeah.
So there's that too, which for some reason that scene always stuck with me. It was always really sad.
Because it's
But-
heavy. It was sad. Whether you liked Lori or not, it was sad.
Exactly. Oh, Lori. No one really likes Lori, but her death, I cried. Like it was so tragic and sad.
I just cried because I cried for Carl. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? And not even really Rick, because y'all didn't like each other. Anyways, we digress.
Exactly. All right, so we get into season 4, and this is the season where Emily Kinney was actually upgraded to a main character. Like how like the TV shows work, you have like your main characters, and then you have like your supporting characters and your co-stars. Beth has always just been like a supporting character, but now her name is credited in every episode, whether she's in it or not. She's considered one of the main
On the
characters.
marquee.
Yes. So we go into season 4, and the first half of season 4, Beth there's a little bit of time skip. Beth has a new boyfriend named Zach, and everything's good. She's helping her out. I'm not sure exactly what her role was in the prison, but you see her like carrying water jugs. She's helping out. She's doing stuff around the prison. She has her new boyfriend Zach. First episode, right off the bat, Zach gets killed at the big spot. So that was a very, very short-lived relationship. But Daryl comes back and he's like, "Oh, I gotta go tell Beth about Zach." And then Beth, this kind of sets up her storyline for the whole season. She's more or less fine. She's like, I don't cry anymore, Daryl. I can't. What's the point? People die. And you can see that she's kind of starting to get more hardened. She's okay. She has a little thing that she says, like, this workplace is 30 days without an accident. She goes and she flips it over and puts it back to 0. Very sad, but kind of sets her up for the whole season. So then as the sickness kind of storyline comes into effect, she, even though she doesn't have to, it kind of annoys me. She goes into quarantine with all the young kids and all the old people. So she goes into quarantine to take care of Judith, which couldn't Carl take care of Judith, or Herschel, like someone who was supposed to be in quarantine? Like it seemed like they just threw, again, even though she's a main character now, threw Beth to the side and just kind of ignored her character and did other things. I just don't like that.
Yeah, it's not fair.
Yeah, because then she's kind of MIA for a lot of the first half of season 4 again. She's just off in quarantine. And I don't know why they decided to do that. Like they could have had her helping Rick with the herd. There could have been anything she could have been doing. But they didn't. Oh well, it's fine. So we get to the point where the governor comes and attacks the prison, and Beth has to watch Herschel get decapitated by the governor. Very sad. You can see, I always think about the part where that happens and Maggie and Beth just like freak out and they take their guns up and they're screaming and they're firing their guns. Heartbreaking. But like I said, I'm happy Herschel didn't have to see any of them die. I'm happy. Not that I'm happy they saw their dad die, but I'm happy it happened that way. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. No parent should have to bury a child, fictional or not.
Exactly. But so this is the point where Beth she goes from like kind of side character to like one of the biggest characters in the show. Her and Daryl escape the prison together. And this is when everybody in the whole show is separated. Everyone's in their own little mini groups. And so yeah, Daryl and Beth get out together. A very unlikely pairing. Two characters, they've had some scenes together, but you don't really ever think of until this moment of Daryl and Beth being two characters that would get along, that would be compatible, anything. So
Yes.
we get the episode where Beth just kind of wants to go and find everyone. She's like, they're out here, they're alive. We can't be the only ones that got out. She's trying to keep the hope up. Like Maggie, Glenn, Rick, Michonne, they're all out here. And Daryl wants nothing to do with it. He's just totally just shut down, blowing her off, being real jackass to her, honestly. So she's like, you know what? Screw you. I'm gonna go find them. You do whatever you do, eat snakes, sit here in your camp, be lonely. I'm gonna go find him. Thankfully, Daryl doesn't let her go. And eventually they set up camp, and Beth is like, if we're not gonna go find him, can we at least go find alcohol? Because you have to remember, she's what, 16, 17 at this point. That's
Well,
what,
it might have been a year and a half or so.
yeah. So she's still at
She's
that,
still
like,
young.
yeah, exactly. So she's like, well, if we're not going to try to find my sister and the rest of our friends and family, we might as well do something. So they go and they get alcohol. Daryl won't let her drink peach schnapps for the first time, which, thank you, Daryl. That's not going to be her first drink. Appreciate it.
That's a lot of people's first drink.
Yeah, so I'm happy.
Saying.
Yeah, if Beth was going to start off strong, it was going to be moonshine. I'm happy. Took her to the moonshine still instead. So, but yeah, so they go, they find this moonshine still. They're both drunk, and they have a really great heart to heart just about what Beth thought was going to happen, and just kind of just talking and hanging out. They have a big fight about like Beth, and this is my favorite Beth scene of all time, when Beth kind of just goes, I'm not Michonne, I'm not Carol, I'm not Maggie. It's like, I survived. You don't get it because I'm not like you or them, but I made it, so you don't get to treat me like crap just because you're afraid. I did not know I knew that by heart. Look at that. But yeah, and then she goes, I remember when Sophia came out of the barn, you were scared, you were a loner, you were like me, but now you won't let anyone get too close. Like I love that whole thing. It still is my all-time favorite Walking Dead episode.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite parts of season 4 is when they hide from the walkers in the trunk of the car.
Oh yeah. I think
that is one of my favorite, like, just Bethel moments in general.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I think that's in still. I think that's like in the very beginning.
Isn't that beginning?
I think so. I could be wrong. That's a scary scene though.
Yeah. And for some reason it was just always like they hid in the trunk of a car from her, basically.
And trunks of cars are not very big.
Like
Daryl's a big guy. Like,
yeah.
At least it wasn't like Tyrese or Abraham, someone who's really big. Can you imagine trying to? If it's like
well,
Abraham and Rosita.
She's small though.
She is small.
What, 5'2" probably?
Just Daryl's crossbow would take up most of space.
But I have put that under the car.
There you go. But yeah, I forgot about that. That's a scary scene because it's like nighttime, and wasn't it? I think it was like
it was like storming and stuff. Yeah,
it
was awful.
Yeah, that would be scary. But yeah, so the next day, Daryl and Beth, they burn down the moonshine still, which is awesome. I think that's so cool. They give it the moonshine salute, and then they go and they find this funeral home, and they're at the funeral home, and it's almost like Daryl is about to confess his love for Beth. Like Daryl said something about that changed his mind. I don't remember what they were talking about, but Beth is like, what changed your mind? And Daryl's just looking at her, and she goes, oh.
And she's playing the piano.
Oh yeah, yep. She played the piano there too. Yep. And he's like, yeah, your singing doesn't annoy me like I said it used to. All very cute. And I don't know if I ever was totally on board with the Daryl and Beth relationship, because she is young and he's not young.
He was supposed to be like 24 to 27. He wasn't. I mean, at that point in time, what does it really matter if he's going to treat her like a gentleman?
Yeah.
But
I just love, they had Norman Reedus, Emily Kinney had the greatest on-screen chemistry. Like, maybe my favorite duo of the entire series. I think like Rick and Michonne have good chemistry, like Glenn and Maggie do, like they're like Abraham and Eugene do, but there's something about Daryl and Beth that just worked so well.
It's because they worked so well in real life.
Yeah.
That's my theory. That's
Yeah.
my theory. I don't know.
You think they were together in real life?
Yeah. And then when she got written off the show, about a month later, every post that had them together in it came off of his Instagram. He was posting her like a lot.
Ooh, that's a whole conspiracy theory. What if Emily Kinney was killed off the show because
I have been said that. I've just like my little circle of my family thinks I'm crazy.
but
that
never even crossed my mind.
They were super duper close in real life.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyway, we digress, but that just blew my mind. Where were we?
We were
we were at the
funeral home.
Yes. So the funeral home, there is this really cool scene where Daryl's like, stay back, stay in the kitchen, whatever. And there's a dog, and she comes over and he's like, I told you to stay in the kitchen. And she's like, but you said there was a dog.
Right.
Hey, girl. But so they're at this funeral home, and this time it's not a dog at the door, it's a whole ass herd of walkers. So Beth is able to escape, I think maybe out a window or something. And Daryl has to fight off all these walkers and get out. By the time Daryl gets outside to where Beth is, he sees her stuff scattered all over the ground and sees a car driving off, assuming Beth has been taken by this mysterious group with a weird white cross in the back. And that is the last time we see Beth in season 4. So I remember thinking, because I knew this was before I really read a lot of the comics or like even like knew anything about the comics. Yeah. And I knew there was a character named Father Gabriel that was coming, and I knew he was a good guy in the comics. I was like, there was a cross. So I was like, oh, maybe they're going to make Gabriel this crazy off the rails former preacher, cult leader kind of thing. And I was like, that'd be really cool. And he just kidnapped Beth. That's terrifying. So that's what I thought was happening. And then we'll get into my least favorite storyline of the entire series. So we go into, before we move on to season 5, season 4 is probably Beth's best season. Probably she has the most focus. What is your favorite Beth moment, Beth scene from season 4?
Just Beth by herself.
Yeah, well, Beth or what she's involved in. Yeah.
The Beth and Daryl moment in the trunk.
Yeah.
That's my complete favorite.
Yeah, mine is definitely when they're having like that fight outside the Moonshine Still, and then Daryl breaks down and she hugs him from behind to comfort him. That's my favorite. It's probably maybe my favorite scene from the entire series. I love it so much.
Aww.
Yeah. R.I.P. But yes. All right, so we will move into season 5. So for the first several episodes of season 5, Beth is still missing. Emily Kinney's not in the show at this point. So we have the whole thing where they're like at Terminus, and Daryl does tell Maggie that I was with Beth. She's alive. She was taken from me. Don't know where she is. But basically, we have to find her once we get out of here. And that's kind of the extent of what you hear about Beth. So eventually, we see Beth wake up in a hospital, very similar to how Rick woke up in the pilot episode of the series. And she is in a hospital gown. She has an IV hooked up to her. I think maybe her wrist was wrapped up or
bandaged or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because when she died, she had a cast on. So I think maybe she had a broken wrist, something like that. But and then Dawn Lerner and Officer Dawn Lerner and Dr. Edwards, was it Dr. Stephen Edwards, I believe? I don't know. I've only rewatched the hospital storyline like one time. I do not like it.
I've only watched it once.
Yeah. So basically, Beth gets she gets one episode where she is the lead. She is the only main character in it until the very end until when Carol rolls in. But it's basically her kind of navigating this new place she's in. So she's in this place. It's called Grady Memorial Hospital, which I don't know if you know this. You can actually see Grady Memorial Hospital in the premiere of season 2 when Rick is in Atlanta talking to Morgan on the walkie.
Yep.
It's in the background. So obviously, I don't think they had this planned back then, but it was a cool idea.
Yeah.
Is
As
Grady
we
Memorial
said,
Hospital a real hospital in Atlanta? I wonder.
I want to say that it is. I've read a bunch of articles about, because the CDC is like a museum or something. But I don't want to say wrong, but I want to say it is. I want to say it's like maybe Emory College or something.
Maybe just because since it was also in the series before, like it just seems kind of random unless it's real. I don't know. But so yeah, Beth is she meets Noah and she's like, Noah's another person that has been taken by Dawn and her people. And they're like,
Another
yeah,
super sketchy person.
she doesn't like Noah. I do. We're gonna ignore it.
Yeah, for sure.
But so yeah, they make this really awesome escape plan together. They hoist themselves down an elevator shaft. Beth somehow can see in the dark. She has like night vision and she's shooting walkers in the basement, even though there's lights off. Who knew Beth could see in the dark? I didn't. It's really cool. But so they get outside, they're escaping, and Noah's able to get away, and Beth is tackled again. She's slowed down by a bunch of walkers, and then she's tackled by the officers and taken right on back up. So Noah actually finds Daryl and Carol, who Daryl and Carol at this point had seen one of the cars that took Beth drive by them. And so they're in Atlanta. They're looking for Beth. They have a whole thing where they're trying to learn as much as they can about the people at the hospital. And so Carol gets hit by a car and is taken up to the hospital. And Noah's like, they can help her. They can save her. They're not good people, but they do have medical supplies. They won't let her die. So they go back and they get everyone from the church and come back. So this whole time, Beth had to kill like an officer who was trying to rape her. She kill? I think she killed a couple of the cops or something.
Yeah.
But so she sees right when she sees Carol being wheeled in, she has her, was it a pair of scissors or a scalpel or a knife, or she has some sort of weapon.
Scissors.
I don't remember what it was. Was it the scissors? Probably the scissors. And I think she was about to go kill the doctor because she's like, this is the guy that's keeping this whole place going. Take him out, and then I'll be free. It was very smart on her part, but then she sees Carol rolled in. She's like, or being rolled in. She's like, oh shit, he needs to save Carol because that's my family. And then so she doesn't do it. But that would have been really cool to see, like, say Carol wasn't wheeled in. It would have been great to see Beth just like go on a murderous rampage throughout the hospital. And I think she could have done it pretty flawlessly.
I mean, by this point, she had the training and the mindset and all of the skills necessary to do it.
Exactly. So we see Beth a little bit still in the hospital. She's being made to work. The doctor accidentally tells her, or purposely on accident tells her a wrong medicine to give to one of the patients that dies. They were going to give up on helping Carol, and then she basically convinces them to save her anyway, use all the resources they can. So she basically is the one that convinces them to save Carol. All really good stuff. So now Rick and who all was there? It was like Rick, Tyrese, Sasha, Daryl, Noah. Is that it? Is that all that came to Atlanta? Sounds right. I think it was just the 5 of them, maybe. I don't know. So they're all in Atlanta. They decide they're going to go in and attack. Tyrese talks them out of it. They decide to do a hostage negotiation instead. So they're able to kidnap 2 of Dawn's cops and make a deal to exchange them. And this is where my whole first thing they ever did on the show that I was completely, totally 100% against. So they're doing this exchange. They're all in this hallway. They exchange one for Beth and one for Carol. And then Dawn pulls her, now I just need Noah shit. Beth is like, and goes, and for some reason, totally out of Beth's character, makes absolutely no sense, stabs her in the shoulder, not the neck, not the head, not anywhere, not the eye, not anywhere that could kill her, stabs her like right here, which makes no sense. And then Dawn instinctively shoots Beth in the head and kills her instantly. I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried some more. I'm still not over it. I'm so upset.
Yeah, I agree. It was hard to watch. That's why I've never rewatched it.
Exactly. I think I may have watched it twice, but I think only once. But so just to finish out the scene, Daryl, who obviously, as we talked about, was really close with Beth. Aside from Maggie, Daryl was probably the closest character to Beth. Daryl immediately shoots Dawn in the head, rightfully so. They're all dead. They all pull their weapons. They're all about to go into a gunfight, which in a hallway is not, with no protection, is not the best place to have a gunfight. But they were ready. And the one officer, the one girl who they had traded in is like, hold on, stop. We don't need to do this. It was just about Dawn. She's gone now. We're good. Don't worry about it. None of us think this is worth dying over. So Daryl scoops up Beth's body and carries her out. While all of this was happening back at the church, Abraham, Eugene, Rosita, Glenn, Maggie, Tara, they had all gone off on their own, but they came back because they find out Eugene's not a scientist, meet up with Carl and Michonne and Gabriel at the church. And Michonne tells Maggie that Beth is alive, not that Maggie ever cared anyway, which that's a whole other thing we could talk about, but which I fix in my rewrite. But yeah, so Maggie's all excited. She's like, oh shit, I get to see my sister again. I assumed she was dead. I kind of forgot she existed, whatever. And they go, and Maggie and everyone else is walking up into the hospital, and here comes Daryl holding Beth's body. And the saddest scene of the entire series, at least for me, then you just see Maggie just break down and just drop her gun and completely lose it. And that's the end.
The end.
The end. We do see Beth one more time, and actually the very next episode, as a hallucination for Tyrese, as Tyrese is dying. And it was a kind of a nice closure on her character. It's actually this picture I have right behind me with her and the guitar. That's actually a hallucination that Tyrese had while he was dying. And Beth just kind of helped him accept moving on. And you see her hear her sing one last time, and then they all kind of drive off into the heavenly distance. And we do hear Emily Kinney's voice in Rick's last episode saying, what does she say? Can't remember. There, because you hear like Abraham's voice and Lori's voice and Beth's voice, Morgan's voice. I don't remember what she says though. Something like maybe go find them or something like that. You see Beth's body in Rick's hallucination of all those corpses everywhere. And then the very last thing, the most recent thing that Emily Kinney contributed to the show was in season 10, we have the character Beta, who we find out his backstory. He was a huge A-list Garth Brooks, Tim McGraw level country superstar. And that's why he always wore the mask, because he didn't want people to recognize him, because he wasn't that person anymore. But so Emily Kinney wrote the song called Turtle and the Monkey, I believe, and gave it to AMC for Ryan Hurst, who played Beta, to record. And they used that song kind of throughout the season as like his big hit. And that was the last thing she contributed. But yeah, so she still has a good relationship with the show. Hopefully we will see Emily Kinney back in Tales of the Walking Dead, which should premiere next year sometime. We don't know any details about that, but it'd be cool to see her come back. But yeah, that's kind of the character of Beth.
I'm excited to delve into your story.
Yeah. All right. So we all know I am not a huge fan of everything, like I just said, that happens with Beth from being kidnapped up. So there's like little things that we talked about. Like I wish they would have had her be more involved in the story earlier in the seasons, but it's fine. She wasn't. Whatever. But from the minute, so they're at the, so okay, let's just preface this. It starts with Daryl and Beth at the funeral home, right? Okay. So the whole same exact thing happens. She is able to escape while all the walkers come into the house. Daryl looks out the window and sees Beth getting attacked by Joe and the Claimers, that group, because they're just kind of everywhere anyway. So Daryl is able to get out of the house and brings the walker herd with him. And Beth kills, I think I looked up his name, the guy with the long, you remember the guy with the long hair that like gets beat to death in the original storyline? Beth kills him because he's the one like trying to attack her or whatever. Joe's group sees Daryl come with all the walkers and they flee. They run off. Daryl and Beth are able to get away, whatever. So Beth is never kidnapped, at least not right now. The like the next episode or whatever, they see Rick, Carl, and Michonne getting attacked by Joe, and they go in, they help them, and the same exact thing happens. Rick bites out Joe's throat, but except now Beth is just with them.
Yeah.
They find a terminus sign that says Glenn, Beth, go to terminus, Maggie, Sasha, Bob. So that way we know Maggie does actually care about her sister, because that was a huge plot hole because obviously Maggie does love and care about her sister, but it's like the writers forgot they were sisters for a second. It just made no sense.
Yeah.
So they all get to terminus. Beth is in the train car with the rest of them. That's where her and Maggie are reunited. They all escape, yada, 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 make it to Gabriel's church. There's a scene in the original show where Tara comes over and tells Maggie that she was with the governor. She was there when Herschel died. So in my version, Maggie and Beth would be sitting there together, because it makes sense. And Tara would come over and tell them that. Maggie would be very accepting, and Beth just kind of gives her the cold shoulder and gets up and goes away. Just is not about it. Just does not want to hear it, whatever. So I have it all written down so I don't miss anything. Okay. Okay, so there's the next day, like, so they're all at Gabriel's church. Everyone kind of goes off, like Rick, Sasha, Bob, Michonne, and Gabriel, they all go to like that food bank. And you have like Maggie, Glenn, and Tara, who went to like, I think they were looking for ammo and stuff. Yeah. So in this version, Beth joins them. So it's just, instead of the three of them, it's the four of them. Beth is with them on this scavenger run. While they're out, there's this herd of walkers. They kind of get separated. They're all fighting. In the midst of all the chaos, Tara and Beth are both kidnapped, both taken away in a car. They're both kidnapped, taken away. You're making a face.
Still kidnapped?
Still kidnapped, but because it still is good for Beth's character to give her focus, and then it beefs up Tara's story a little bit. She didn't really do much because she was still a new character at this point. So, so Glenn and Maggie go back to the church and tell everyone that, oh my God, Tara and Beth were both taken. We chased the car. So Matt, instead of Daryl chasing the car like he did in the original show, Glenn and Maggie chase the car as long as they can. They lose it and whatever. So they go back to the church and tell everyone what happened. Daryl and Carol are out. Carol's trying to leave. They see the car that Glenn and Maggie described drive by, just like they happened in the original show. So they go off and chase it. Let's see. Okay, so Beth and Tara both wake up in an apartment building in the middle of Atlanta, way all the way up at the top of the apartment building. They're tied up. They hear people talking outside the door. So Beth and Tara are like, hey, like trying to get their attention. A woman named Dawn comes in. So I do still have Dawn in this, but she is completely different. She's not a police officer. She's just kind of a random person. She's like, she asked them why they took them. Why are we here? Normal questions that someone would ask who's tied up and who was kidnapped. And So I think the Claimers, so Joe and the Claimers should have been more integral to the story than they really ended up being in the original storyline. So in this version, they were part of a bigger group who were just out scavenging. They're part of Dawn's group, and Dawn knew what had happened. They had others kind of scouting out that way, and they saw what happened, and so they went, and that's why they kidnapped Beth and Tara. So they want them to, they don't want to kill them. They want to make them work, just like they did in the hospital, but it's a lot more brutal. They're a lot more intimidating. It actually makes sense, not random cops in a hospital. That makes no sense at all. Daryl and Carol, so Tara, hold on. I literally went through all of this morning. I'm trying not to get it confused. Tara, Noah. So Noah's still in this version. Basically the same character he was. The three of them make a plan to escape. I like the whole elevator shaft thing. So they still escape down the elevator shaft. Beth still can't get away. Tara and Noah do, though. Tara and Noah get away. They find Daryl and Carol. Carol and Tara are both taken back to the hospital because they're both hit by a car. Whatever. Daryl and Noah go back. In my version, Abraham didn't leave with everyone. So like Abraham, Rosita, Eugene, Glenn, Maggie, they're all still at the church with everybody else. So Daryl and Noah go and they tell them everything that happened. They all decide to go to Atlanta to rescue the three of them. Because in my version, you have Beth, Tara, and Carol there. So let's see. Yes. Oh yeah, and while they were gone, still the same exact thing with Terminus happens. Bob dies, termites attack, whatever. So that storyline already happened, done with. But we do have the problem, Eugene. Everyone, they still think Eugene's a scientist. So, So while they're on their way to Atlanta, Abraham decides this is way too dangerous. I can't have Eugene in the situation. Whatever. There's a big fight between Rick and Abraham, and that's amidst all that chaos, that's when Eugene says he's not a scientist. So then get that out of the way because we don't want to see Eugene on our screens any more than we have to. So you remember in the original show when Rick is trying to make this plan, like we're gonna go in, Daryl could kill one of the guards, slit their throat, whatever, get a gun to Beth, and we'll all fight. That when they were like kind of making their original plan.
Yeah.
Keep that. Don't do a stupid hostage situation. So what I have is everyone, and so this time there's more fighters. So it's Rick, Daryl, Glenn, Maggie, Michonne, Abraham, Rosita, Sasha, and Noah. So they have a lot more of them. They go and infiltrate Dawn's apartment building. But oddly enough, it was very easy for them to go in and rescue him. There was not a single other person in this apartment building. So they rescue the three of them. They come back to the warehouse where they left Tyrese, Carl, because Tyrese stays to protect them. They leave Tyrese, Carl, Gabriel, and Eugene, who is unconscious because Abraham beat him up. And while they're gone, Dawn's people, they're very smart. I have them as like this very like intelligent, organized group. They saw all of them coming into Atlanta, like from the top of the apartment building where they have like scouts set up. So they all leave and they follow them. And when Rick's group leaves, they surround Tyrese's group. So you have Tyrese, Eugene, Gabriel, Carl, and baby Judith surrounded by evil people. They know that Carl was involved in the death of Joe, like in that group. So Dawn's like, I'm going to execute the kid because he was there. He did it. I'm not putting up with them anymore. She's going to execute. Tyrese jumps in front of the way, gets shot in the head, killed.
Nice. That's a good way for Tyrese to go. I like that.
And then it fixes a lot of the problems I have with Tyrese. So, around that time, that's when like Rick and everyone else comes back into this warehouse. They see that Tyrese was just killed. Carl's still about to get executed. Gabriel's freaking out, praying, whatever Gabriel was doing. And Sasha sees what happened, like, and shoots Dawn in the head immediately. Sasha kills Dawn.
Nice.
And then At this time, they're all kind of outnumbered. There's a firefight. I think I had Noah get shot in the shoulder, but he's okay. And yeah, that's kind of the end of it. And they're all rescued, and Tyrese dies. Period. End of that storyline. I think it would have worked so much better. That basic kind of thing.
Yeah, it really, and then that could have opened up to, I know that the internet likes to Daryl Carol over Daryl Beth, but what if Beth could have grown into that badass that Carol is, and then they could have just been three badasses.
Right?
What if it was Beth running Hilltop?
Okay, so I'm not done yet. I have more.
Let's go.
Okay, so so they still they go back to where Tyrese originally died, at Noah's family home. But no one dies there. It's just kind of an episode for Noah to find out, oh, my whole family's dead. And Noah and Beth, even though it's not Daryl, I have Noah and Beth. I think it would have made sense for them to start a relationship. Be together would have made, I think it just would have made sense.
So, if he wasn't such a little baby, yeah.
Yeah, well, in this version,
in your version, he's not really.
Yeah,
he's more of a
exactly. So,
okay.
So they get to Alexandria. Beth is assigned medical assistant to Pete. Deanna gives her that job, and what else do I have? Yes. So a lot of the storyline that Sasha had with being very distraught and kind of short with people and not assimilating well into this world or into the Alexandria community, that's what I would have given a lot to Beth. I think it would have fit a lot better because a lot better than what they did with Sasha. I liked it, but I think it could have worked even better with Sasha. And I kind of think a lot of her storyline could have been given to Beth because I like that Maggie and Sasha were good best friends. I like that relationship. I like that friendship, but I think it would have been even cooler for it to be a sister duo. So the scene in the finale where Sasha or Gabriel is blaming Sasha for the deaths of everybody, that would have been Beth. She was in the church praying because she's having a really hard time, which makes sense for her character because she was religious. She holds Gabriel at gunpoint, and that's when Maggie comes in and stops her, and they all sit and pray together. So just like that happened in the original show, except with Beth instead of Sasha, which makes more sense to me. And then
I really do that.
Yeah. I've thought about this a lot. And then so what I really have, so I didn't write any more out of season 5, but I did put that Beth she stays alive this whole time. She's in the lineup with Negan, so she sees Glenn and Abraham get killed. She goes with Maggie back to the hilltop because it just makes sense she would get Maggie the rest of the way there. And then Beth would have been part of that power group of Maggie, Jesus, Sasha, Enid. She would have been part of that. But then obviously with the Whispers, Jesus gets killed, Enid gets killed, Tara gets killed, Maggie leaves, so Beth becomes leader of the hilltop. And if she was still alive today, she would probably either be at Alexandria with Daryl and Carol, or she'd be on her way with Eugene and Ezekiel and Princess Yumiko. One of the two, either one. I don't know.
I like her with Princess.
Yeah.
I like that storyline. I think that would be cute. Oh my gosh, I can't believe y'all see, this is why Dylan and I are friends, because I just predicted his whole ending and had never heard any of this before. Yeah. I promise he didn't send me any sneak peeks or anything.
So I know it was kind of lengthy, but that kind of basic storyline, it's not fleshed out or anything. It's kind of a basic idea, but I think it would have fixed so many of the problems we've talked about for season 5. So many things just don't make sense. The hospital storyline, dumb, makes no sense. And since Beth died and Noah died, it's they could have completely wrote that whole thing out.
How did they have enough steamer stuff to keep their uniforms so crisp? That's what I and water.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It just always bugged me. I'm supposed to believe these freshly pressed officers are still living a good life in Atlanta.
Yeah, I never even thought about that. Oh, I do have Noah would have died the same way he did in the original show too, because that's so iconic. I didn't want to remove that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and then even like the whole thing with like Abraham, Eugene, Rosita, Glenn, Maggie, and Tara kind of leaving. Also, I always thought that was so out of character for at least Glenn and Maggie. Like, you don't know
It
these people.
was.
Like Glenn and Maggie don't know these people very well. They've known them what, probably in the storyline a couple days. That Glenn's known Tara a little longer, but they've only known him for a little bit. Why would you leave Rick and Sasha and Michonne, like people you've known for a long time, to go with these new people? So there's just so many things that just don't make sense in that season that I feel like I could have fixed.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I like it much better your way. We're going to pretend it actually happened that
yes,
way.
that's this is actually canon now. But you know what's cool? So they're doing that show, Tales of the Walking Dead, that'll come out like next year or something. And they could do stuff like this. They've talked about instead of they don't want to bring all the actors back maybe all the time, but they've talked about doing like animated stuff and it's like a what if Walking Dead series, and they could do stuff like that, like kind of
Yeah.
rewrite storylines in different ways. Wouldn't necessarily be canon to the show, but it's like showing how different storylines could have played out different ways. I think that'd be really cool. So anyway, so any final thoughts on Beth before we wrap up today's episode?
No, just that we love you, Emmy.
Yes, get Emily's new album. I believe it's called The Supporting Character.
It is.
Yes, I have not listened to it yet. I'm sorry, I forget. But yeah, it's out, which is a very fitting title because she was one of the greatest supporting characters to ever grace TV. And yeah, stay tuned for more Walking Dead Junkies. We will be back next week, maybe with Glenn. Maybe we'll talk about Glenn next and break down. We'll try to keep it shorter, or not. He has such a long storyline, we won't be able to flesh it out as much as we did with Beth, but we'll do our best. We'll probably do it more like Rick, how we just kind of do bullet points and call it good. But
for sure.
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, follow me on TikTok because I've been doing Walking Dead TikToks lately. Yesterday, I got one that has like almost 4,000 views, which is very exciting because my TikToks don't get any views ever. So go follow me on TikTok. I'll put that in the description along with the links to all of our socials. And yeah, until next time, bye guys.
Bye.